What's up, everybody? Oh, man, I'm so pumped for tonight. I'm Dave Kleckner. That's Marc Thomasini. We are fourth and go. Philly 4 for 4 plus more. But tonight, the focus is on one thing. I mean, we'll get into a little bit of everything Philly, right? As we do. But it's our annual NFL season preview show. We've brought you, I should say, some great picks in years past. I had Rams Bills last year. So did Mark. One of us had the winner. It's pretty cool to get that close. And then, looking forward and behind, we've hit on over 50% of our playoff picks in years past. In the last 3 years, we've had a Super Bowl winner in 2 of the last 3. So I got to say, I feel like we're going to be right in line again this season. So let me kick it off to you, Mark, and welcome you to our favorite. I got to say, it's our favorite show of the year.
Oh, absolutely. What up? What up? It's a trying Tuesday, and guess what? Things went the right way tonight, but we'll get that to a little bit. But I honestly look forward every year to our NFL season preview show. It's fun. It's behind fantasy. It's just like looking at records. Like, that's the thing. You don't do this with baseball. Unless you have all the time in the world in your hands.
Yeah.
With football being a short sport and a sport that really, now they've opened it up from Thursday to Monday, sometimes Tuesdays when freak things happen. You don't play it every day. And there's so much anticipation week to week. It isn't any given Sunday season. There's nothing like football in America. And this is why we love it. It's fun to predict. And we're not that bad at it either. So, you know what? Check in, put some money on it. I will try and make you some money.
I love it. And so the script of the show tonight, everyone, we're going to get into just real quick. Got to talk Phillies. Great win tonight. Just kind of where they're at. Then we're going to get right into the Eagles as they kick off the season this Sunday in Detroit. We're going to hit it hard and go over the schedule, each game, win by win or loss by loss, week by week to be exact. And then from there, we're going to stretch it out and go right over the NFL landscape, go division by division, playoff team by playoff team until we get to 2 Super Bowl teams and an eventual Super Bowl winner. I'm also going to throw out a couple win props this year. And finally, and when I say win props, let me take that back, future win total. Going to give you a few of those as I've been posting on some other sites, but I'll throw them out here, as well as we're going to get into our, I'll call it world famous, because why not? We've been doing it for 10 years now, 3-packs, and we'll give 3-pack of NFL games. Track those numbers as we go throughout the season here, as we hit at over 60% last year. So let's see if we can repeat the feat, but let's start first at the action down at Citizens Bank Ballpark. And Mark, take it away with what you saw tonight.
So I saw Aaron Nola throw 10 strikeouts in 6.2 innings pitch, but, the Phillies bats weren't really doing much. We're able to hang in there. But then, the magic comes out. First, actually, what led up to this really was a great 9th inning, both on, the defensive side and the offensive side. David Robertson, he walked the batter first batter, which he did the other day in San Francisco. That's something that he gets very frustrated about. He was able to bounce back because he strikes out. I forget who he struck out. And then JT throws out Luke Williams, former Philly, at second on just a whip. He throws the best line. He's obviously the best defensive, base stealing catcher in baseball. It's just truly amazing what he can do. And he had that thing on a rope, and that was 2, caught stealings tonight. Great on his part. And you saw he did the fist pump. He was, and he was just so on it because he was heading to third because he realized nobody was covering third just in case there was a mishap at second. He's a heads up guy. I know he has his little slumps here and there, so nobody wants to call him the best catcher in baseball. Defensively, I think he's still the best catcher in baseball, and his bats come around. So everything's great. And then, the thing with the Phillies is when they've won, for the most part, you give them an inch, they take a mile. Bryce Harper hits a blooper at the bottom of the 9th. He doesn't run it out until he realizes that the ball hits the ground, just makes it in the second. And then you get an angry Gene up at the plate.
Oh, angry Gene. He ripped that thing off at the end of the game.
Yep. You intentionally won JT. And, and Gene just went up there hungry, and it worked.
Yeah, tonight had a script and used that word earlier, but really it did have a script tonight of a game that felt like, coming into this, like, where are they going to play? And then, the weather kind of died out. Then they started playing. Then the rain started coming. But we needed Nola to really show up big. And he did. And then again, this 1-0 lead off of Sosa homer, and he gives it right back. And you're just like, oh, man, in a game coming off a road trip where you lost 5-6 and have lost 6-7, this was a night that they needed Nola to step up and ball out. The pitching staff has been an absolute joke of late, except for maybe Falter. So they needed a guy, and a guy that really doesn't pitch that well in September, by the way, to come in and really give them a prime outing that puts them in a position to win. And that's what Nola did do. I think at some point there, when they got it into what was it, the 7th inning, when they pulled him with 2 outs, you could see it. I'm not sure he wasn't ready to come out. He was dealing. But it really did set up that manner of, this game was a roller coaster. Don't get me wrong. Even the play at home where we were safe, where we're really out. I question that. And, I don't think that's baseball. But in the end, the roller coaster that it was ended with a good ending, and one that we probably needed more than you can realize. Keeps us a half game up. The Rocky on the Padres. Looks like the Brewers are going to win tonight. They're up 6-1 out in Colorado. It's a game you need. Look, you struggled out west. Needed to come back and win this one, especially with the day off. And they did it. But it just took a little bit of emotions and a little bit of a ride to get there.
It really did. And it was, it's tough because I think it's funny. We talked about this last week. We talked about how the Arizona Diamondback series last year pretty much ended the season early. And it gave you that same feel. It gave you that same feel. They lost 2 or 3 against them, get swept by the Giants. You just can't take your foot off the gas. And I saw something earlier I think it was about it was somewhere around, I think it was the beginning of their the Diamondback series. Bob Nightingale put out a tweet. It was an article from The Athletic, I think, saying that the Phillies are going to make the playoffs for the first time in 11 years. And I was just like, no. This is you can't happen. And one of my best friends is like, well, what do you mean? That's stupid. And I was like, no, I believe in jinxes sometimes. And I just feel like this is way too early to be doing that. And then, he's like, jinxes are for the weak. Well, they lost 5 of 6. They're lucky that they were able to, maintain ground earlier in the summer. And they're lucky that they have, a schedule that favors them. But look, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. I just don't believe in doing that. They're just not there yet. This is not like they're 17 games up on, we've seen crazier things happen. We watched the Mets lose their division. I mean, with a week left, up 7 games. So it's possible.
Oh, you don't have to tell me. I agree. I'm never even now, I do feel like Milwaukee's a bad team. I've been saying that since right before the All-Star break. They're flawed, and I've read some articles today about how who was the one that was just cut? Was it Lorenzo Cain this year? Outfielder that plays well. But anyway, saying the trade of Hader, the cutting a veteran like that. It's not Lorenzo, but guy that plays like him. It just has set a bad precedence for that team, but somehow they're still hanging around. And when you have Woodruff, when you have Burns, when you have the pitching like they do, Lauer's pretty decent. Look, nothing's impossible. They can come back. So I'm with you. In what we have 6 games against the Braves still. Toronto's still on the schedule. It's not a cakewalk the way out. So we need to win these games, and that was big tonight. So what was also big is it gave us a winning Tuesday. And that winning Tuesday is going to fuel us with that, fire and that power to get going here right into our NFL picks. So as we get to the 15-minute mark in our show, why not kick it off with the Philadelphia Eagles? And let's talk about the season ahead. And Mark, tell me if I'm crazy or not, but honestly, this is the most promising preseason and promising team and promising roster we've had since the TO days. I know we won the Super Bowl in 17, but even that one, we're coming off of what, 4-12 year. It was
that was 9-8 or
7-9 maybe
7-9.
Yeah. It was Wentz's first year. You're right.
Wentz's rookie year. It was experimental. It was Peterson's first year. I mean, It was actually a decent year looking at it. Wentz played well for a rookie. He wasn't electric, but he made plays. And,
It
I
was a
think
nice play.
that's the year they started off 3-0 and they had that big win at home against Pittsburgh, 34-3. So it wasn't.
Yeah, but they were last place in the NFC East. It was 4-12 and 7-9.
Oh,
But it wasn't a team that you just said, okay.
no.
And that's why I think this one this year is the best roster, is the best shape construction that we've seen in Philadelphia. I really believe it since the year went to Super Bowl with T.O. We had some others, the Dream Team we can talk about, but that was absolutely flawed from the start. But this is it. I mean, I really think the most talented team they've had in 18 to 20 years. What do you think?
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the thing. They do. It's really that talented. I mean, obviously, the one question mark you and I have talked about ad nauseum, continue to do so, is Jalen Hurts. But with that being said, it seems like every time that they're expected to be good, they're not. And every time they're not expected to be good, they are. And that's even something that Jason Kelsey has admitted. He's like, every time you guys have us up here, we blow it. Every time you guys don't talk about us at all, we're in the thick of it. And it's true that the 2017 year, as great of a year that was, we expected really what I think I'm expecting from this year is a decent playoff run. I mean, we'll get into that, but we weren't expecting Super Bowl. We weren't expecting to trounce, the Vikings in a conference game. I mean, none of us have seen this in our lifetime, them do this. So, it came on so suddenly, and now it's and we can't help our expectations. You look at this team on paper and you look at all the additions they made, and it just seemed like, when they got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, just like they literally filled every hole. Like every single hole they had, they filled with something. That was the only one that was, you know what, we're just going to have to rely on the cornerbacks and the defensive line to get to the cornerback. Now, we don't know. Again, Charlie Gardner-Johnson's not he's not Derwin James, or he's not, the old Tyrann Mathieu. He's a guy who played safety in college, played a little bit in the pros, but mostly played slot corner. Ball hawk, the thing is, he's tenacity and ball hawk. I mean, if you translate those skills to that position, he's going to be just fine with the fire that he plays with. And it gives, the Philly is filled with another dog. That's just how it is.
No, I agree. And that key that you said there, filling every hole, there's a way to fill a hole. But there's a way that the Eagles fill their holes this year. You can throw a little bit of loose dirt in there, but they really filled it with some good compacted, and they figured it out. Where did I probably see the biggest gaps? I thought it was in the linebacking core. Getting Kazir White, adding the Kobe Dean is really going to help, widen that out. The defensive line, one that didn't create enough pressure last year. I think they were 29th or 30th in NFL in sacks. In comes Jordan Davis. You add one of the best sacking defensive ends in the league in Hassan Reddick. So boom there. And then I'm like, they probably don't have enough to piece in the backfield, D-backs. But okay, they found Bradbury hanging out there. And he's going to reinvigorate himself. And then they look around and they get, like you said, the safety from the Saints. And it just all has sort of fallen pieces as we look on the offensive side of the ball. They're able to trade away the one piece that probably kind of was their ankle weight in Jalen Reagor. And now they bring in Zach Pascal. They have some other pieces there. They're well spread wide. They got Trey Sermon the other day, right? Yep. At running back. We were talking about Ian Book is a nice little piece just to have a trade bait probably in Gardner Minshew, in my opinion, and to just keep recycling that backup quarterback as they like to do and make value out of their third quarterback. But it's all there. It's all there. And the biggest question mark to me, you say it's the quarterback, and I don't disagree, but I tell you it's tied with the coach. And I just don't know yet, and I'm hoping. But did I know the coach when Doug Peterson was coming into the second season with the Philadelphia Eagles? No, I didn't. Did I think he could win the Super Bowl for the Eagles? No, I didn't. So, did I think Nick Foles could win a Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles? No, I didn't. So I will be patient. I will give Hurts and I'll give Sirianni their fair due, because Howie has set them up for success, and Howie has even come back and started to talk about his failures, which I'd like to hear too.
Yeah.
This team's good. This team's good. And the only thing that scares me, Mark, is that everybody knows they're good. I watched a little
Right.
bit of Dan Orlovsky today, Mike Greenberg, a couple of shows across the ESPN platforms, all about the Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys, and them overtaking the Dallas Cowboys. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm just worried, is it too much hype?
Is it 100%? Is it too much hype? That's always going to be the thing. We're, how do I want to put this? We're battered, when it comes to getting our hopes
And
up.
we have scars. Yep.
Yeah, we definitely have scars, and they run deep, and so we don't ever want to put the cart in front of the horse. I mean, even just like I was saying earlier about the article that came out, proclaiming the Phillies, probably get back into the postseason for the first time in 11 years. It's the second longest drought in the MLB. I don't want to put the cart in front of the horse. I just don't. I don't want to do it. I'm not ready yet. Let's get there. Let's make sure we take care of business, because when you lose 5 out of 6 to the Diamondbacks and the Giants, it's not okay. It's not okay. And it doesn't make me feel confident going into a playoff series when you're in that situation. So I'm not ready to say the Eagles are a Super Bowl team, and I'm not, I can't sit there and say it without, giving myself a little shiver and like this doesn't feel right type of feeling.
Yeah, no, 100%. And we're always going to be scarred, and we're always going to be guarded. They said, you win a Super Bowl, we don't have to win one for the next 20 years. Well, you know what? I lied, because we do got to win one soon, because I love that feeling, and now I'm a little bit addicted to that. So let's get into this. We've talked about it. We've seen the roster construction. We've seen the hype. Let's actually break it down. Let's get into where we think the Eagles will land. Mark, let's go one by one on the games in the schedule, where they fall, where you think they'll land, and we'll come out with a record on top. Let's start this Sunday in Detroit, and I'll open up with this game. I'm a little nervous. I'm a little worried. Detroit's one of those kind of, they got nothing to lose type of teams. And they don't, we're coming off a 3-win season. They are a team that's probably projected somewhere in the 5 to 6 win range, which would double where they were at with Dan Campbell in his first season. It's a team that's going to fight. It's going to claw. They had a Pythagorean expected wins last year of 5, and they only ended up with 3. They lost a lot of close games, but they are still a team with holes. They are still a team that's not great defensively, and they still have Jared Goff. I am worried. I think this one will get a little deeper than I want it to. But in the end, I think a talented Eagles roster will be sharp enough. And let's face it, we're okay in season openers. I can remember the games down in Washington that we won when we were close favorites or, close dogs in recent years. We've had some good victories in week 1. I think the Eagles will pull it out. I'm not really confident with the spread number, but I think they pull out a close one in Detroit. I'll give them a win week 1 on my mark.
Yes, I will go the same way, actually. When you look at the Eagles and I completely agree with what you just said about, them starting off well. It's not going to be pretty, especially with the new way of the NFL of, some teams play preseason, some teams don't. If you look at it on paper, both the Eagles and the Lions got mollywopped in game 3. Now, again, for the Eagles, at least, the starters barely played. Miami played their starters for a little bit. They took advantage of a situation. I get it. You know what? Let them do that. And it seemed like that the Dolphins really took it to them, in practices. Yeah. That's fine. I think, the Eagles probably need a wake up call. I hope they, find their grit, find their dog, get it together, because the Lions are going to play nasty. That's what we saw on Hard Knocks. It's where their headspace is at. They have their coaching squad is mostly former players and all dogs. Again, they're all dogs. Deuce Staley, Aaron Glenn, the linebackers coach, I think Shelvin, not Richardson, something Robinson or something like that, former linebacker. But Dan Campbell, obviously, he's talking about biting kneecaps. Yes, is it a little over the top and fodder? Sure, of course. But that's what they've instilled into their team is, look, we got nothing to lose. Let's go out there and bite. Let's go out there and fight and do it all. And they've been hitting the whole time. The Eagles haven't. I think this is going to be a first half that is going to have fans on edge. I was there. Let's see. Foles was the quarterback. I want to say like 14. I think it was 2014. Eagles at home against the Jaguars, down 17-0 at halftime, won the game 34-17. So this is I have that same kind of feeling for this game, even though they're at Detroit. I think maybe we're wrong, and maybe they come out the gates. Like it honestly could go a multitude of ways. Like it's not like they're for sure going to cream them. It's not like but I definitely think it probably the greatest chance, if I had to put percentages on it, is that the Eagles are going to have a close game. It's going to be ugly. They're going to do some good things. They're going to do some bad things. But in the end, you're going to realize that the Eagles are the better team out of the two. And that's how they're going to win that game. So I have a W for the Lions.
All right. Well, I will kick it to you for week 2 Monday Night Football home opener. Minnesota Vikings come to town after a week where they play their fierce rivals, the Green Bay Packers. I'm a little high on the Vikings this year. But let me start with you and get your pick on what you think that game will be.
So it's a, like you said, Monday night game at home. This seems like it would be set up for the Eagles coming off of a Lions game for them to lose. But I actually do think they pull this one out. I think they take advantage of a situation. I think this team, especially if the Lions game goes to where they underperform to start the game, and they have to come back and they have to fight their way through it, I think it's going to be another kick in the butt that, gets them going. And then I think they finally find that no prisoners mentality. They've been hitting a little bit now. I think it would be another close one, but I think the Eagles take care of business at home against the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think for me, I think there's a decent chance the Vikings end up beating the Packers. And with that emotion, that expectation rolling into Monday night, it'll be a little higher than if the Eagles struggle versus the Lions. We'll probably get a little bit more balanced of an equation than should be. If you had Eagles Vikings week 1, Eagles home, I think you're seeing 4 to 5 point favorites. If you see what I'm leaning towards, what we're going to see, it could be 2 or 3. So we're going to have an adjustment in the market. And with that adjustment in the market, I think the Eagles having some time to get through that kind of tough game, win game you're supposed to win. Now come home, have the energy of the crowd here. I think it's going to be a great situation. And let's not forget, we hate Minnesota. Look, Dallas is our number 1. Giants probably 2. Commanders right there 3. Minnesota's not far behind from anything else, from their whining, their crying, and everything they did during our Super Bowl run. Let's remember that. Let's kick them in the ass. I'm with you, 2-0 to start the season. So I'll move and I'll kick off week 3, which is the Commanders, and it is the return of the return of the Wentz, and it is a time for retribution, for some payment. And I'm good with this game. I think there's too much on the line after coming off. Yes, it's a short week, but yes, it's the Commanders. I do believe Ron Rivera will have a team that's competitive this year. I don't think they're as big of a walkover as people will expect. I think Wentz will have an okay year. Okay, don't get me wrong. But in the end, we know what he is. And we know this guy's not going to close out a game. And we know he's going to give up a few balls for us to grab. And he doesn't really have the weapons outside McLaurin. But really, can he throw McLaurin open? Probably not. Can he throw the guys in the backfield? No, he's really inaccurate to his running backs. So I do think we win this game down in Washington, our nation's capital, where we win almost every year, I feel like. And we get out to 3 now.
Yeah, I would also have to say 3-0. I like where you're coming from. I think this is probably as much as I agree with you, I also do not think that Washington is a team to walk over. I think they are going to be competitive. I think they're going to fight. I think you're going to see decent Carson Wentz. I mean, remember, Carson Wentz for most of last season was decent. Obviously he choked at the end. But again, I say decent. Obviously nothing close to the MVP season that he had with us years ago. But between the choke job and, just relying on Jonathan Taylor so much that teams finally started zeroing in on that. I think we're still going to see decent Carson Wentz, but again, it's not enough. And I think that their defense, honestly, like their back 7 doesn't do much for me. I think a good defensive line, but once you get past that second level, you're fine. You're absolutely fine. The injury or the shot to Brian Robinson doesn't hurt. I think he could have been like an emerging player.
Yeah,
Him
but he doesn't change.
later this year. No, he hasn't. Right. And
He doesn't change the outcome of this game. I'm saying. I agree.
Yeah.
He's emerging.
Oh, of course. Yeah. No, I was looking more long term, but
Yeah.
relying on Antonio Gibson, they don't really have a tight end. I do like Jahan Dotson from Penn State. I think him and Wentz actually have a good connection together. I think that's probably going to be what's going to cause some fits for us, probably going against Bradbury. But with that being said, I think the Eagles take care of business down in Washington. I don't think it's close. 3-0. Or they're 3-0.
I'll give you the return of the Dougie. I just talked about the return of the Wentz, but week 4 creates another return, and that's Doug Peterson back to Philadelphia. Kind of left on curious terms, in my opinion. I'm still not sure what the true story was when Doug Peterson got let go. A lot of it says it's on him. A lot of it was that he was not really in control of his destiny. He was trying to force his own way, make his own decisions, which I think rightfully so. A head coach should be able to choose his own coordinators, and wasn't given that freedom. So Doug sits out a year and takes the job in Jacksonville. And they come up here in week 4 with Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, and a newly minted wide receiver, one of the top paid ones in the league, and Christian Kirk. How does it fare? How does it work out? Mark.
I think it's an offensive juggernaut of a game. I think it's going to be high scoring both ends. I do think this Jacksonville Jaguars offense is something to compete with. I think Etienne out of the backfield, if he can stay healthy, Lawrence and him have the connection. Evan Ingram, Peterson does well with running backs and tight ends. Like, that's just the way it is. And I think, Lawrence having now a real head coach in the NFL and Doug Peterson, who comes from the Andy Reid tree, I think it's a lot of positive things going in the direction for this Jaguars team. So I think it's going to be a shootout. At the end, I think the Eagles are just more experienced, and I think the Eagles take care of business. But I mean, I see a really high, back and forth off the juggernaut of the game. But
I love it.
And
I think that analysis is spot on. I think coming off, a win against the Lions, a win against the Vikings, and then playing that emotional game with Washington could lead them towards a letdown at home. But Doug Peterson kind of will juice them back up. Howie, Jeff won't let that kind of go easy. But I do think that it could be a situation where you see a little bit of letdown, a lot of points scored. So I'm with you. High-scoring game. Eagles pull it off. Jaguars don't have much resistance from a defensive side, but I do think they could be dangerous offensively. And I still remember, what the hell was that guy's name? With the Thunder Thighs that ran all over us about 5 years ago for like 200 yards from Jacksonville. It was like the last time they were here. It'll come to me in a minute.
Not James Robinson.
No.
You're talking about somebody from before?
Yeah, about 5-6 years ago. But we've had some.
Jones Drew?
Yes. Yeah, he was one. I think it was him. But we've had some games against Jacksonville in the past. Let's not let this one slip. Let's take it to 4-0, and let's move out to Arizona. I'll take this one. Week 5, we go out to Arizona. I am not high on the Arizona Cardinals. Let me make that clear. I am not high on the Arizona Cardinals. I think the third place easily in the NFC West. I think Cliff Kingsbury is an idiot. I think he's 9-14, something in that range against the spread in his career. He's not one that I think lasts long in the NFL, Chip Kelly-ish, but it's just tough. And it's tough going out west. We've had a house of horrors out in that stadium. I think this is the first loss on the board. I know we're better than Arizona, but that doesn't mean you win every game against the teams that you're better than. And it's just not a good spot for the Eagles coming up with the Cowboys on the schedule the following week. It feels like a trap. You played those emotional games against Wentz and Peterson. You got the Cowboys after that. You're going out west. Unfortunately, this is where I see the first loss. Eagles 4-1.
I get out of my head because I'm at the same place. I actually probably am a little higher on the Cardinals than you are. I could see them in a second place finish in the West just because there's so much talent. I think, with Hollywood Brown, they're going to get Hopkins back, but that's obviously down the line. But with that being said, the Eagles going out west after, if the Jaguars game goes as such where, it's a really high-powered offensive game, I think the Eagles are going to be winded. I think the defense is going to be winded and flying out west. I think it's just going to be a tough break for them. And I think the Cardinals have some work to prove, and I think a win like this for them would jettison them towards moving in the right direction. So I'm also going with first loss on the board against the Cardinals.
All right, then we roll into week 6, still the week before the bye. And Cowboys coming to town. Big game, huge game in the NFC's, huge implications. I'll lead off with you, Mark.
This is tough. They're coming off. Now they're coming back east. They're coming home against the Dallas Cowboys. I think, and I'm going to do it like you did. Like I said, the Eagles are better than the Cowboys on roster. On paper, the Eagles are better than the Cowboys. I have no doubts about that whatsoever. With that being said, I think it's tough coming back from the West Coast, having a tough game against Arizona, because I think that it's just going to be an ugly game. I think it's going to be a tough game. I think the crowd here will be fired up. And I think the Cowboys at this point, I know they have a tougher start to the season than we do, but I don't think it's that much tougher. I think they're still obviously in the thick of things, and I think they're still playing well. And I think they probably are riding some kind of momentum. And I think they come in here and they really give the Eagles a hard dose of reality. I think the Cowboys come in here and win, and the Eagles will be at 4-2 after this game.
Yeah, the Eagles struggle against the Cowboys, but at home they've been okay. They have been able to win two out of the last 3. I have a little more faith this Sunday Night Football. I think it's a huge game in the NFC East, huge game in the NFC. I'm going to say the Eagles take this one down. I think Dak is kind of questionable with what he has weapons-wise. CeeDee Lamb coming in a little bit dinged up, I should say. Gallup, we're still not sure where he's at. Zeke, whatever. Schultz is a problem, and tight ends were a problem last year. But I think we'll be okay. I think the Eagles will rise to the occasion. Going into the bye week, I'll take a dub. So I have them 5-1. You have them 4-2 going into the bye week.
That's
then
right.
we roll right out of the bye week and we stay in the area here and host the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'll lead off and say this one's tough too. This one's tricky. Tomlin's a guy that can surprise you. Guy that's never had a losing season. By this time this season, I think Kenny Pickett will be playing. But Eagles off a bye. I'll get them out to 6-1. I like them to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers.
After this game, the Eagles will be at 5-2 because I agree with you. Kenny Pickett will be there, and I think Kenny Pickett is going to be decent. I think he's going to be decent for them. I just think, again, this is where the Eagles, they regroup after the bye, and they realize what they have to play for. And I think, Hurts comes out firing. I think, Pittsburgh has a good defense, and I really think that this is a character-building win for them. It gets them back on the right track. I like the Eagles here, and I have them at 5-2.
We go to Houston after this. A place where they are the better team once again. But, you got a few things on the schedule here coming out of the bye. Commanders on tap. Texans you can't take lightly. Very similar to a Lions game, first game of the year. Mark, what do you have?
I have the Eagles going into Houston, and I have them winning. As good as they are, good as they are for what they are, they're coming, they're actually in a great place after the whole Deshaun Watson fiasco. They're actually in a decent place. Yes, they'll probably have the opportunity to go get a better quarterback, but they have Davis Mills, who has just done what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
They have talent. Right. Yeah. Better than expected. A quarterback coming out of Stanford that, wasn't really graded high. You have Dameon Pierce, who might be something. Obviously, his fantasy stock rose tremendously over the past 3 weeks, going from a 10th round to a, in some leagues 5th round running back. But with that being said, he's their clear number 1. Nico Collins, Brandon Cooks, they have talent. And I think that they're moving in the right direction. I think this is going to be a little bit of a tough game, but I think the Eagles take care of business in Houston because they're, riding the momentum of that win against Steelers and coming off the bye. I think the Eagles are moving in the right direction at this point in the season.
Yeah, great. I got a W too. They're just better. And the Texans are going to be playing for a little bit of next year at this point. The Eagles will move on. It scares me to say 7-1 is always, is really good in the NFL. Are they really a 7-1 team? Not sure, but this schedule really does lead them down that path if everything's falling right. 7-1, Eagles are out to it. I do think they win there, and then they roll the next week at home against the Commanders, and I'll give them another W. Again, better team and better team by a wide margin, I think. I just don't think, I look back at last year and they had to play the Commanders on a weird situation, rained out Monday night, played on a Tuesday, and they were able to dominate. Now they got lucky. They faced, a JUCO quarterback, but in the end, you saw the gap in rosters last year. I think the gap is wider again this year. I think they sweep the Commanders, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Dave is 8-1.
Yeah, I also like them to beat the Commanders. Like I said, I think the Commanders are better than we think they are, but at the same time, I think the Eagles are just so much better on paper. I think they definitely take care of business. Also, I think the Eagles look at how things went last year against the Giants and Washington late in the season, where they lost the game to the Giants, which they should have won. They almost lost to Washington twice. They played down to their level. And I think that this Eagles team is not about that. I think they take a good hard look in the mirror, heading into the season. They say, when we play the bad teams, we got to beat the bad teams, and we got to, take care of business as it should. So I think there's no issue with them beating up on the Commanders.
That puts you at 6-2, and we go to a very tricky game out in Indianapolis versus the Colts. I'm sorry, I'm 8-1. You're 7-2. Yep.
Just making sure.
Yep. Week 11, out to the Colts. It's on you, Mark.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough game. I think, and again, everything with the Colts this year is predicated on Matt Ryan. It's an upgrade from Wentz, hopefully. Well, for them, hopefully, because if they can find some of what I think his time in Atlanta was running out. I think it just, once they got up to the point with the Super Bowl loss to the Patriots, I think it was all downhill from there. I think a fresh start is needed. The coaching staff turned over a couple times over there in Atlanta. I think this is his chance to be better. They have a good running game. I'm a heavy believer in Michael Pittman this year as being a wide receiver one. I really think
I believe it too.
If Matt Ryan is half of what he was a couple years ago, half. I'm not expecting that much, but just Matt Ryan is so much smarter with the football in his hands compared to Carson Wentz. And Michael Pittman was still great last year with that. So to me, I think the Eagles, they had a nice 3-game winning streak coming off of the bye. They get smacked here. And the thing is, Frank Reich, he knows Sirianni. That was his guy. So I think this is where the Colts take advantage of a situation and the Eagles lose in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. Now, listen, I don't think Frank Reich is great.
Right.
But I do think, like you said, there's some value there in understanding your pupil in Nick Sirianni. And, the other part is Colts are tough. They forced, I want to say, I got my numbers in front of me. I think it was 33 turnovers last year, 30 the season before. They are, ball hawking, and that's a big difference when you're playing a team that can create pressure up front, as well as 33 turnovers last season, as well as just be a very good defensive team in the back end too. It was funny last year they didn't lose because Carson Wentz turned it over a lot. He didn't turn over that much actually. They led the league in turnover differential. But what they did do is they had him turn it over at crucial times. And that's where I think Matt Ryan will be the difference.
Not going to throw those, in the back of the end zone, throw it, just trying to get it out. And
the flips or the fumbles or And
so many of those plays.
Yeah, and I think that's where I think it's a tough spot. It's a tough spot. I'll take a loss as well. And that gets us to you 7-3, me 8-2, and we come home to the Packers the following week. And I will tell you, we've beaten Green Bay. We've beaten Green Bay when Rodgers is thrown all over us and, dinked and dunked and done everything, and we couldn't stop him. But somehow, some way, we, one last miracle stop at the end of the game. We got it done on a Thursday night. But I have a feeling the Packers are going to struggle a little bit this year. And when I say struggle, they've had 13-win season 3 years in a row. I mean, they're going to have to fight to get in the playoffs this year. Well, in week 12, they're going to be fighting. But they're also going to be figuring out what Christian Watson is, what Romeo Dubes is, and really Alan Lazard is. And they still got Aaron Jones. They still got A.J. Dillon. They're a well-rounded team. Rodgers, with only a little bit of time left, he's good here. When we win, I feel like we win there. I will take the Packers to upset us at home this week and get me on my record to 8-3.
And I am also right there with you when it comes to the Packers taking care of business in Philadelphia. I think the Packers, this might be a thing where I might be a little bit higher on the Packers. I think this is kind of while Rodgers still has it in him, it's kind of a Rodgers revenge tour. He's going to say, look, I have to do it without Devontae Adams.
Yep.
He's still going to make it work. I think we're going to see A.J. Dillon take a larger role. I think Aaron Jones is still going to be very good for them. So I do agree. I think that it's not going to be a cakewalk for the Packers this year, and they are going to be fighting. So not to waste time, but I feel the same exact way. Packers beat us at home.
All right, week 13, we go to the Titans. What do you got?
A.J. Brown makes his return to the Tennessee Titans, and I think he has a heck of a game. Titans, not as high on them as I think that they've been the past couple of years. I think this is where we start to see the decline. You have Derrick Henry coming off of a foot injury that might be detrimental to him, not being a pass catching back. They don't really have a second option behind him in the running back game. So if he's out of it, he's a good chunk of their offense. I mean, they were talking at some parts of the season last year that he could have been the MVP of the league because he really put the team on his back. Tannehill, he's decent. He's a game manager, not in the best of ways, but I think that loss to the Bengals in the playoffs, I think that's kind of like a Matt Ryan type of thing. Like they've probably made it as far as they can go with Ryan Tannehill at the helm. So I think the Titans we're going to see them take a little slide this year. With that being said, like I said, A.J. Brown goes in there and tears the roof apart. I wouldn't be surprised. 120 to 140 yards, 2 touchdowns. And I think they take care of business easy in Tennessee coming off of that Packers loss. So Eagles win.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, at this point, we could even see Malik Willis. Could. There's a chance here. Tennessee's a desperate team. I love Vrabel as a coach, but I think there's a situation here where they're starting to lose trust in the quarterback, and we're getting deep into the season. If they're sitting there battling at 500, I know they were the number 1 seed in the AFC last year, but if they're struggling a little bit, we could see a change at the helm. And at that point, it's a transition season. Either way, Tannehill, Wills, I think the Eagles are better. Give them a win, and let's move on to week 14 when we travel up the turnpike to the Meadowlands and the New York Giants. I think the Giants are better. I will get that out there first and foremost. I think Brian Daboll will bring a kind of new wrinkle into the way Daniel Jones should play. Now, my limitation on Daniel Jones has always been he holds on to it too long. He's loose with the ball. He's the only quarterback that I think fumbles more than Carson Wentz. Now, some of that's been a product of the offensive line. I think he's had talent. Listen, when you looked at it last year, Sterling Shepard, Kenny Galladay, Evan Ingram, Saquon Barkley, that's talent. That's not like he had like schmoes to throw to. And he even got a little bit better this year. He did have Kadarius Toney last year, but Wan'Dale Robinson stepping in. And again, I just think now with a different mindset at the offensive helm, I think he'll be better. Better won't be good enough to beat the Eagles on this day. I'll give them a W up there in the Meadowlands. But watch out for the Giants going forward. The key will be, do they actually – it's going to be a Washington thing. Do you extend Jones or do you franchise him? And it's just going to – like they did with Cousins back in the day. It's going to be a perplexing situation after how he plays this year.
See, I am a little different with you in regards to the Giants. I think they kind of stay where they are. I do like the addition of Brian Daboll, but I think it takes a year in his system and to kind of shuffle things up, maybe a different quarterback at the helm come next season. That's kind of where I'm at. I think they really try and go as far as they can go with Daniel Jones. I think that they give him every opportunity because they took a chance on him. With that being said, it's not going to be enough. I think the Eagles defense is going to cause fits on this day. I don't think I think the Eagles won't have to do too much on offense. I think their defense will take care of things. As much as Saquon Barkley is a threat, I think they're, if they only really have to worry about the running back, I think they'll be okay. Wan'Dale Robinson, yeah, he might be a problem. Kadarius Toney, I just don't think has the how do I want to put it? His heart's not in it. He's like all the time. I think he's just kind of in and out. I don't even know what their tight end situation is now that Evan Ingram's not there. I don't know if it's anybody notable. Don't think it's
they had that the Minnesota Rudolph.
Rudolph, but I think Rudolph is now in Tampa Bay. So I don't.
Yeah.
So
I've done 6 fantasy drafts. Obviously,
right.
I'm not drafting any of their tight ends.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. So you get a W?
Giants, give us a W. Eagles defense, I think, shines this day.
Yeah, just because you got curiosity killed the cat, they play the Giants. Oh, they got Ricky Seals-Jones if he plays. And then down to who the hell knows? Bellinger. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, W, I'll lead you off with this is a stretch of 3 straight road games. Giants out to Chicago, Justin Fields and the Bears.
Chicago Bears, again, they have a couple good offensive players, but not good enough to really do anything of substance. I think the Eagles go to Chicago and take care of business. Eagles win handedly at Chicago.
All right. I like it. I'll take 2 dubs there, and we go out to Dallas the following week. Another game that, I think is a primetime game. I'm trying to double check here. But after coming off the Sunday night win against the Cowboys early in the season, no, it's a late Christmas Eve 4:25 game. I'll take an Eagles loss here. It's just, I spoke about it earlier, how they've been okay with Dallas at home. Well, they haven't been okay in Dallas. They've lost 3 of the last 4 there. And they just haven't been that pretty. Oh, I'm sorry. They've lost 3 in a row, 4 of the last 5, and some of them aren't pretty. In the 3 in a row, 37-10, 37-17, 41-21. So each one by at least 20 points. It's just not a good place for us. And that's okay. We'll take the L now. Still might not give them enough to get in the playoffs. We'll talk about that soon. So I'll take an L in Dallas.
You'll take the L now. I'll take the W because I think the Eagles actually go ahead and take care of business in Dallas. Anytime the Eagles play the Cowboys around the holidays, good things happen. You go back to I don't think it was around Christmas, but it was pretty close. The 44-6 game. You look back at the Mark Sanchez Thanksgiving game in Dallas. I think anytime they play them late in the season, I think this is their revenge game for earlier in the season. I think the Cowboys, that roster is even though they lost some pieces, I think they're still intact at the beginning of the season. At the end of the season, I think the Eagles just show that they are the better team on paper. So I like the Eagles to take care of it and make a very, very nice Christmas for us this year. And I feel like when the Eagles play around Christmas, just holidays in general, not even just the Cowboys, but holidays in general, everything. They beat the Raiders the Super Bowl year. I feel like they played a Christmas or Christmas Eve game recently. Thanksgiving, besides that time that Detroit completely killed us on Thanksgiving, usually the Eagles are up for their Thanksgiving games. So I like the Eagles around the holidays.
It's a good point because even the Doug Peterson era, it felt like we had to win the last 4 every year, and they did. So good point. Last 2 games on the docket are at home, starting with the Saints. What do you got?
I got a win against the Saints. It helps us for our draft pick next year. And I think the Eagles are rolling after that win for the Cowboys.
I agree. I'll take the Eagles over the Saints as well. Saints, decent team. Don't count them down. Eagles still are playing for something that late in the season, which rolls us until last week. Home against the Giants. I will take a loss. I think they just – at this point, I've already put them at 13 wins. And if – I'm stunned I have them this high. I really thought I had them at 11 or 12, but at 13 wins, you're playing for the 1 seed, 2 seed in the NFC. I will take them losing this game to the Giants, whether they decide to play it out or not play it out. They are not a 14-win team. So I'm even feeling weird picking them at 13. So I will take the loss here. It's over to you.
And I will take the loss as well. I think they're not – I think they're – somewhat resting players. I think they're playing half-assed. I know it's not really the key way to play, but I think that
But
the
it
Eagles.
is. It
But I
happens.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's just they're going to kind of come out flat. The starters probably don't finish the game. I think they have nothing to play for at this point, and I think they've sealed the division up.
And as we look at it, you go 12-5, I go 13-4, and we'll say this much: that's well over 9.5. So
Yeah.
I don't even have to tell you where to walk or where to go drink that water, but I like the 9.5, and I even like the juice on it. A lot of books will show you 150, minus 160, even some places. I'm okay with it. Look, I can go back in the schedule. Mark, you probably can too. Okay.
Yeah.
I've given them losses to Arizona, the Colts, the Packers, the Cowboys, and the Giants. Maybe you could convince me the Vikings in week 2.
Right. That's one. Same thing with me. I mean, maybe the Colts the Texans is a loss. I know you
I
have them as a
can't.
loss. You know what I mean? No, you did have them as a win.
Yeah, but convince me on the Vikings, maybe. And maybe the home game against the Cowboys, I'm still sitting there 11-6. I
Or even
can't
the
find.
Titans. I can't go below 11 because when I
I
first
can't.
predicted this, I thought 11-6, and I relooked at the schedule again. And I was like 12-5, but I could see them losing a clunker to the Commanders or the Giants. Like besides the one that they lose to the Giants, like maybe they lose one of them to the Commanders. But to me, I can't go below 11 for sure. But I have them at 12-5.
Yeah,
And I don't know if they're as good as that record is, kind of like what you alluded to earlier, but it's what the schedule gives them.
Yeah, and all I was agreed. All I was saying is with the 9.5, I just can't find a way, and it's got to be like a disastrous injury, and like not even a Hurts injury, because I think Minshew can get them close to this number. Can they win Super Bowl? No, but
No.
like I just 9.5 seems really, really like a good play for all of us. So let's get into our breakdown. Let's start in the AFC just because we've been kind of fresh with the NFC here. We'll start in the AFC East, Mark, and I'm going to swing it to you. Give me your, in order of finish, the 4 teams in the AFC East.
Buffalo Bills 13-4, first place. Dolphins 9-8, second place. Pats 8-9, third place. Jets 5-12, fourth place.
I like it. I'm with you. I have the exact same finish. I do think one of my favorite plays of the season, if you're kind of making notes at home, is the Buffalo Bills win total this season. 13 will get you over that. I think they are at 10.5 or 11.5. I got to double check, but either way, very comfortable. They were terrible in close games last season. They do have a tough first place schedule, but they're really good, really, really good. And they had a point differential last year that put them at 13-14 wins, and they only won 10. So they just were historically bad in close games. I think that flips this year. Their offense is just dynamic now. I mean, you just have so many different pieces. Gabe Davis is going to come out. James Cook adding him. They're good, man. I'm with you. And I do think the Dolphins are decent. So do you have the Dolphins as wild card at that number or no?
I do not.
Okay. Neither do I at this point in the game, but we could get back to that. Let's go to the AFC North. I'll lead it off. I have the Ravens winning that division. I have the Bengals in second. Ravens, the only team coming out of the division, making the playoffs. I know it's surprising to hear, but Super Bowl teams that lose often don't come back that quickly. Don't know why, don't know how, but the Bengals even more of a case when they were like a 4-12 team the year before. So I got Ravens, Bengals. Then I have Steelers, Browns. It's just a shit show in Cleveland right now for me until they figure this thing out. I think the Steelers fight. I think they fight all year long. Decent defense, decent offense. I could even see them jumping the Bengals, but I won't take that. Ravens are my division winner.
I have the. Do you have the Bengals in the playoffs or no?
No, I don't.
Okay. Oh yeah, I think you might have said that. I apologize. So I flipped those. I do have the Bengals winning the division 12-5. I just think they have so much talent. Ravens coming in at 10-7. Steelers 8-9. Browns 6-11. I think the Deshaun Watson situation, I think it put them back a year. Going from 4 or 6 games to 11 games. I think it blew up in their face. They'll have a chance next year. The way things happen with Baker. But yeah, I still think the Bengals have a lot of talent. Do I think they make it far in the playoffs? No. But I also do have the Ravens taking the final wild card spot. It is 7, right?
It
It's
is 7.
7 teams. Yeah, they have
Yeah.
the 7th spot with a
Yeah.
10-7 record.
I like it. I might have to go back to something in a minute with a wild card, but you're going to take Ravens wild card. All right, Bengals. I'll let you know in a sec. All right, AFC South. I'll kick it to you.
All right. So again, just like I said earlier when we were talking about the Colts game, all dependent on Matt Ryan, which I think you are better off betting on it than betting against it. I think this change of scenery does well for him in an offense that suits him. Colts 1, Jags 2, Titans 3, Texans 4, and it is only the Colts that make the playoffs, no wild card team.
Man, some balls on you, and I love it with the Jags call. The Jags are a sneaky team
Yeah,
that I could see really is starting to make that
they're
big
fringe.
step. Yeah, but I will go. I'll give a different flip at the 2 and 3. I'll go Colts 1. I agree with you. I just think, look, when we look at the landscape of NFL teams and the way we switch year to year, I had a stat here that I came up with over the last 4 NFL seasons. We've had a division winners repeat 47% of the time. So we know we're going to see a recycling of the division winners. Playoffs, 52% of the time. So, I have one current division winner that'll stay. That's the Bills. But we see the Ravens and Colts for me as 2 new division winners. No wild card out here. I'll go Texans, Jags. Titans, Jags, Texans. And I'll go to the AFC West. I'm going to go Chargers as my team that wins this division, followed by the Chiefs, Broncos, and then Raiders in last. I will say that I do think this division is the best division in football, and I see 3 teams coming out of it: Chargers, Chiefs, and Broncos. I know that leaves me one wild card short, so I'm going to remix and go back up to the Dolphins as my other wild card team. But the Chargers are so snake bitten. They just find ways to lose, but they just have this kid that I believe so much in. And, as much as Russell Wilson coming in that division changes things, as much as, Mahomes is still that guy, I just feel like it could be the Chargers' year here. I'll take the Chargers to win that division and honestly be the 2 seed in the AFC.
You're reading my mind, man. I actually have it the same order: Chargers, Chiefs, Broncos, Raiders. I think Russ going to Denver obviously helps them. And I think we do have 3 teams going to the playoffs with the Chargers as the 2nd seed, the Chiefs as the 5 seed, the Broncos as the 6. But my problem with the Broncos is Russ still having to get acclimated. They lost a guy like Tim Patrick, so now they're, going to be, hoping on KJ Hamler. And I think that they're going to have to try and, this is a complete life change for him, going over the Denver. So I think there's going to be some bumps and some bruises. And I think for the Chiefs with Tyreek Hill gone, I think it changes the offense a little bit. Chiefs still win 12 games in my opinion, but I think things are a little slower for them. It doesn't look as good. I think they have to, dog out some more games. So I'm in the same spot with you.
I like it. And then, so you got Bills 1 in the AFC.
Yep.
Who's 2? Bengals or Chargers?
Chargers 2.
Yep.
Bengals 3.
Got it.
Colts 4.
Yep.
Chiefs 5.
Yep.
Broncos 6.
And Ravens 7.
So Lamar Jackson 7. Yeah.
So nice little opening matchup. You're going to have the Chargers, Ravens, Bengals, Broncos, and Colts, Chiefs. What do you have coming out?
I have the Chargers beating the Ravens, the Broncos beating the Bengals.
Okay.
That's, as I alluded to, I don't think the Bengals make it far. The Chiefs beating the Colts.
All right, nice. So you have Bills versus Broncos, and you have Chargers versus Chiefs.
Yep.
And for me, I'm going to go, I agree. Obviously the Bills will have that bye. Dolphins have to travel to LA. Not a huge home field advantage, but in the end, I do have the Chargers winning that game, having home field in the second round. Ravens will beat the Broncos. So Chargers versus Ravens. And in the Chiefs will beat the Colts. Frank Reich can't do that. So Bills, Chiefs, I have really cool matchup in the second round. I'm going to have the Bills exacting revenge on those Chiefs for last year's game. Bills versus Ravens in the AFC Championship. What do you got?
I have Bills versus the Chargers. I think you have, your Bills Broncos game. I think it's clear who the better team is in that situation. And I think you have the Chiefs and the Chargers. I know the Chargers are snake bitten, but I agree with you. I believe in Justin Herbert, and I believe in the whole entire team. I mean, besides probably the offensive line is probably their biggest weakness in LA. Their defense is stacked. They add Khalil Mack.
Okay.
That was, I think, an under the radar move because he kind of fizzled out a little bit. I think that's huge. Derwin James is healthy. Was it Nick? No, Joey Bosa's out there. Nick Bosa's in. Yeah.
Yep.
They're stacked. They're stacked. So I really like Bills Chiefs in the conference championship game.
Yeah, I mean, sign me up for Herbert versus Allen any day of the week and twice on Sunday. But I'll take the Bills to beat the Ravens and represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. Listen, I know that's a little chalk, but let's be honest, they're good, man. And this is a long time coming. This is an evolution. This is step by step with this team. I know kind of maybe in a way you could say took a step back last year by losing in the divisional round instead of the conference championship. But I mean, let's be honest. That was the conference championship game. It took everything out of the Chiefs, the Bengals slipping by them the week after. But Bills Ravens is awesome. I mean, Lamar Jackson, Harbaugh versus McDermott. It's just got some Eagles ties to it. It's a great game. But in the end, I do think the Bills erase all those demons from last year and get themselves 1 foot closer to that Lombardi trophy.
So, like I said, it's Bills Chargers for me. Bills make it to the Super Bowl. Again, we both picked the Bills to go to the Super Bowl. I swear I can show you this right here. We did not talk about this before. No. It's on here. It's on paper. The Bills are too good. I completely agree with you for the same reasons. I think that the Bills have been in an upward progression, and I think they've only gotten better. And I think that the Chargers could be next year's Bills. And I think that's
yes, what I agree.
The jump that the Chargers are going to make from – what did they make the playoffs? Or they not made the? I'm trying to think of that. Oh, no. They lost to the Raiders
on the last game.
That's that weird thing, right? Yeah. And then to go from not making the playoffs to the Super Bowl for me is very tough. I think this is their, kick them back down one, they'll get up next year. So I think the Chargers will only get better next year, but I see them stopping at the conference championship, and the Bills are represented in the Super Bowl again by both you and I. I don't know how to do this, but here we are.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's crazy that we got there, but we're there. Let's go to the NFC. I'll lead off the NFC East for us. We've already talked about it. We both have the Eagles with a pretty high win total. They win the NFC East. The rest, it just falls the way it falls, but none make the playoffs. It goes Cowboys, Giants, Commanders for me.
I got Eagles, Cowboys, Commanders, Giants. Eagles at 12-5, make it to the playoffs. No wild cards. Wait a minute. No, my apologies. Cowboys make the wild card.
And you have Commanders third.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. All right, I'll give it to you for the NFC North.
To me, I don't think the Packers are dead yet. I think, like I said, this is the Aaron Rodgers revenge tour. So I like the Packers at 1. Vikings 2, Lions surprising at 8-9. They're going to be a better team this year. Bears at 5-12, bringing up the rear.
Yeah, I have similar. I have the exact same order, except for the fact. Well, no, not the exact same order. Let me take that back. I had the Vikings winning the division.
Yeah,
and the Packers coming in second, and I had the Packers making the playoffs. But then, like you, I had the Lions and Bears. I do think the Lions move a kind of inch up a little bit here and do get ahead of one other team, which is a good feat for them this year. I'll go to the NFC South here.
Let me my apologies. I have the Vikings in the playoffs as a wild card team.
Oh, good. Yeah, I do think they're decent. I do. I think they're okay. And I think there's something to be said about stability. They could have came in there and ripped it all up with Cousins, Cook. We all love Jefferson. Thielen's still there. Irv Smith, I think, is a factor too. So Yeah, so I think they're going to be okay. I do. I agree. I'm going down to the South, and here's where I wanted to pick another change in division winner, but I couldn't get all the way there. I will leave the Bucks there, but there is something about the Bucks that scares the shit out of me this year. I will say it's not Tommy's face, but it is something else that's going on with that team. It just doesn't seem right. Is it Todd Bowles? Is it just that Brady wants to retire? Is it Giselle leaving the house? I don't know. I'll still give them the win. But the Saints are going to be close, and I'm going to be battling all year. I'm going to take the Bucks, then Saints in second. I'll take the Panthers in third, then the Falcons up the rear.
I have the same exact lineup from top to bottom: Bucks, Saints, Panthers, Falcons. The Bucks 10-7. It's going to be the worst division in football, in my opinion. I agree with you. I couldn't take the Bucks out of first place because it is Tom Brady. I think they still do have weapons. I think they're going to try and piece things together, like bringing in Julio Jones. I think it helps, but like it's you're trying to make things happen. You're able to do it because you have Tom Brady there. Like that's the reason why you're able to bring him in there. Chris Godwin, he's coming off an injury. Will he be the same? We don't know. I think the Falcons are bad. I think the Saints are. I don't think they're terrible. Like I said, they're in second place, and the Panthers. I think they're not as bad as you say.
What's up, Danny? Yeah, we're ripping up the schedule right now. Thanks for checking in. Eagles, and Eagles looking at really good in our eyes. And look, we're not. If you've come to this place before, we're not that. Everything looks blue in the sky. We give it how we feel, and we're not often that high on a team, but this year we are. So let's rip it off.
Hurts believers. We are
Yep.
not.
Yep, but
we still just have that much confidence as a team as a whole, and we think he at least takes some type of progression. Obviously, he has to believe that he's going to be where he is. They're not going to win in spite of him. It's not that.
We're right there around the 12-win mark, which I think is just fantastic for this team if we get there. Let's round out the NFC West, one of the most competitive divisions, just like the AFC West. Mark, hit me with it.
Rams 13-4, your best team in the NFC. Cardinals 10-7, Niners 9-8, Seahawks 2-15. I think when you have Geno Smith and Drew Lock, that might be overzealous on my part. Maybe they're a 4-win team, but if something happens to Geno Smith, and I think there's a lot. I think that the weapons that they have on offense are okay, but their defense is just terrible. They haven't been the same since the Legion of Boom is gone. And the Cardinals do make the playoffs as a wild card team in that second.
Yeah, this is the one place we actually differ. And I have, I almost found my way to kick the Rams out of the playoffs. Wow. I'm going to be honest. They had the perfect path last year. They had the golden brick road. Yes, did they have to go to Tampa? I got it. But, the fact that they didn't have to go to Green Bay in negative degree weather and come home versus a 49ers team with Jimmy Garoppolo on one shoulder, it was the right thing. And then play the Bengals and not the Chiefs. And so, it worked out, right? It worked out for the Rams. They weren't a team that won by a lot of margin last year. But then I do have them returning to the playoffs just as a wild card. I think the 49ers take this division. I'm high on Trey Lance. I'm very high on Trey Lance, but I'm more high on Kyle Shanahan. I'm more high that Debo's bought back in. Brandon Ayuk will be back. Eli Mitchell's a very good runner. George Kittle, you get him the whole year now, hopefully, if he doesn't get hurt. That defense, little questions maybe on the back end, little questions on the offensive line. But other than that, the Niners own the Rams. I want to say Shanahan's 7-3 against McVay in his career. I got the Niners winning that division. Rams will sneak out a wild card. I got the Cards missing out. And with you, I do have the Seahawks very, very, very low in the bottom 2 or 3 in the NFL. And you know what? I don't know if Pete Carroll makes it all the way through, but they'll set themselves up perfectly for that, Stroud Young sweepstakes.
Yeah.
So absolutely. What's your order of finish again?
My order from 1 to 7, Rams 1, Packers 2 because of the tiebreaker with the Eagles, both teams finishing 12-5. Eagles in 3, Bucks 4, Cardinals 5, Vikings 6. Cowboys get that last playoff wild card spot.
Oh, Bucks were 5. I'm sorry. Yep.
No, Bucks were 4.
4. No, I got that. Oh, yeah, my bad. 5. I heard that. What was it? Cards were 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Vikings 6. All right, cool. So I will put, for me, that record, I mean, just puts, the Eagles in great position. I'm going to put them at 2 in the NFC. I'm going to leave my 49ers. It's crazy, but I'm putting them at 1. I'm putting the Bucks at 3, Vikings at 4, Pack at 5. The Rams at 6, and the Saints come in at last, but really puts a pretty cool dynamic on this thing, because if you look at it, for me, 49ers, Eagles, Packers, Rams return. That's 3 new playoff teams. For you, Rams, Packers, Eagles, Bucks. Oh, yeah, no Bucks return. So I have 5 of the 7, and you as well have 5 of the 7 with your Cowboys. Your 2 new teams are Cards and Vikings. Mine are Saints and Vikings. So that's pretty good. Pretty good. So give me what you got.
Who was your 3? Bucks?
Bucks were 3 for me. Yep.
Okay. All right, so starting off with the wild card, you have the Packers versus the Cowboys, 2-7 matchup. Packers win.
Yep.
Cowboys, again, they just choke in the playoffs. It's not happening for them. They're not that good. Eagles at home versus the Vikings, a repeat of the conference championship. The Eagles.
Oh, you had Vikings? I thought you had Vikings 7. You had Vikings 6.
Cowboys I had Vikings 6, Cowboys 7.
Right. Got it. Cool.
Yep. I have the Eagles taking care of the Vikings like they did in the conference championship game, going on to the divisional round in that 3-6 matchup. And then in your 4-5 matchup, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Arizona Cardinals, and the Bucks go on to beat the Kyler Murrays.
Wow, you have Packers, Eagles, Rams, Bucks. Woo-hoo-hoo. What a fun, that would be fun, man. Sign me up for that. Over on my end, I do have the Eagles beating the Saints. I do have the Buccaneers beating the Rams, putting them, kind of, taking back a little ownership for last year. And I have the Packers upsetting the Vikings. I'm with you. As much as I think the Vikings could win that division, in the end, the Packers still, they have a lot of ownership in people's minds. So I'll have 49ers versus Packers, Eagles versus Bucks going in. And I will start off by saying there's one team that Tom Brady sometimes thinks about and sometimes mentions, and it's not with the best of memories. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. Tom Brady does not like the Philadelphia Eagles. Tom Brady is playing his last season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The last Super Bowl he lost was to the Philadelphia Eagles, and the last game he'll ever lose is to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles will move on to the NFC Championship game, righting a wrong from last year when they lost down in Tampa at the Pirate Ship. There's just too many old pieces, too many injuries to survive 3 seasons in a row. This Eagles on to the championship game. 49ers move on to the championship game as well, as the Eagles will have to travel out to San Francisco.
It is safe to say that you and I will not have the same Super Bowl matchup like last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at the Packers-Eagles 2-3 matchup in the divisional round, and I think this is where the road ends for our Philadelphia Eagles, unfortunately. I think Aaron Rodgers is just too experienced. I think he, looks back at the way that he played last year against the Niners. He's at home, should be able to take care of business. Jalen Hurts just not ready for this moment. The thing is, it's a weird position that we're in because, as I said, Eagles are probably going to be paying Jalen Hurts now looking at after the season. It's going to be an interesting place to be in unless they can get creative and find a way to get into that Stroud Young sweepstakes or another quarterback shakes loose. I'm not disappointed about it. I mean, I really hope that Hurts takes another step forward. Anyway, my other matchup, Bucks-Rams rematch, and the Rams win again against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I have Packers-Rams in the conference champions.
Which should have been what was last year, but didn't happen because of the upset of the Niners in Green Bay in the divisional round. Who you got going to the Super Bowl?
I have the Green Bay Packers making it to the Super Bowl versus the Buffalo Bills.
Nice. I have the 49ers. I have the San Francisco 49ers. They've represented the NFC, I want to say, twice in the past 6 years. One time with Kyle Shanahan, and it could have, should have, would have been against the Kansas City Chiefs. They just missed a few key plays and gave that game away, then kind of faltered and fell apart. They are a cyclical team. It's hard to say that Trey Lance can make a Super Bowl, but wouldn't it have been hard to say that Colin Kaepernick could have been those few years ago when they lost to the Ravens on the goal line? So it's very similar. And in the end, I think I just have a lot of belief I do think they're missing a few key pieces, but if things fall the right way, they were in the NFC Championship game last year, and the roster is even a little better, and the quarterback's even a little better. So I had the 49ers representing the NFC in the Super Bowl and facing the Bills, and it feels like that might have happened a few years ago back in the 80s. So I got 49ers, Bills. You got Packers, Bills. Who you got?
I have the Buffalo Bills as your Super Bowl champions. I think the Bills finally get the monkey off their back for a long, long time coming.
Yeah, do it up. Oh, man.
Is this guy Trey Lance in it? Is this Sir Lance a lot?
The whole time I said it's Bills, 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 but plus 550, and the fact that they've never won a Super Bowl, it's very, very hard for me to sit here and just imagine they'll take that ginormous leap of winning every game they need to. They are going to be the more talented team. They are going to be the better team. They are going to be favored. But Shanahan's tough. I'm going to take the Niners. I'm going to take the Niners to win the Super Bowl. Give me another NFC West team. 2 years in a row for the NFC. It's a tough call there. I do think the Bills are that good, but to win a Super Bowl, you need a little luck. And the Niners got, unfortunately, unlucky in 2 of their recent appearances. Let's put number 6 on their – I'm pretty sure that's number 6 for them on their rings. And they'll be right up there with the Patriots and the Steelers.
Wow. But you're all in on Trey Lance.
I'm all in on Shanahan, and I think he can make Lance something special. And yeah, I am. I have some money on – so here's what I did. I put money on the Eagles, Niners, Bills to win the Super Bowl. 2 of them obviously pay a lot better than the other, but, I think I've kind of protected myself with the AFC. The other one, I'm sorry, there was a 4th. I put the Chargers too.
Sure.
Yep. I thought that they had some good odds. So I've kind of bound myself with 2 AFC, 2 NFC, and we'll see. Now, I don't think the Rams can win back-to-back Super Bowls. Do I think the Packers could? Yes, but it's Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs. I
know.
I don't even know what to do anymore with him. So then it comes down to me in the NFC of 49ers, Eagles, or Bucks. And like we talked earlier, I just can't – I just don't have a warm and fuzzy on what's going on down there right now. So then it's down to 49ers and Eagles. So I'll put a little bit on each, and I'm good. That's where I'm leaning. And God, I hope it's the Eagles.
I mean, I would love it. It would solve all my issues and everything like that. It's gonna be tough, but we'll see.
Yeah, I love it. All right, we'll post these out. We'll put them out definitely on Twitter over the next couple of days here. Mark, as we got a couple minutes left in the show here, as we always do, and as we get excited for football season, let's throw a couple best bets out there. A 3-pack of the NFL. I'll lead off, and I'll give you my first one so you get a little warm up here. But I do like the Pittsburgh Steelers probably a little bit more than a lot of bettors do. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers can keep the game against Cincinnati somewhat close this weekend. Getting 6.5 in that game, I'll take it. I think it could even drop down to 5.5, 5 by game time. Listen, the Bengals are good. I like the Bengals. Like you said, you got them in the playoffs again. And I'm a Joey B fan, but they didn't beat anybody bad last year. Every game that they won was competitive and close. Even when you get back to the playoffs, it was Eric McPherson. Am I saying it right? Not Eric. Evan McPherson. The leg, bombing them out to win each game. Raiders, Chiefs, and Titans. So they win games close. I'll take the 6.5. I think Trubisky's not as bad as people think. Do I think he stays in that role? No, but I think he can hang in for a couple of points here. I think they keep within the margin. Steelers are my first pick.
Well, I was going to go another game first, but because you took the same thing, I'm right there with you. Pittsburgh 6.5, plus 6.5. I agree with you. I like the Steelers too. Look, they're not going to be as bad as we think. I mean, I think you and I both, have them about a 500 record type of team.
Yeah, right
this
there.
Year. And their defense is strong. We know that, their offense, they still have playmakers. George Pickens might be a real player. You got Chase Claypool. I think they're going to Fairmouth? Like they're good. They have weapons. So they make, Trubisky / Pickett's job easier with what they have.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree. All right, what do you got as your second?
All right, my second game. We're looking at the Titans and the Giants. Now, I'm not big on the Titans this year, but I'm also not that big at all on the Giants. The Titans at home against the Giants -5.5. I like the Titans to act like that they're still in it, even though I don't think they're going to hang around the whole season. I like the Titans at home week 1.
Nice. Number 2, I'm going to go on the road in this one. And a guy that's familiar with going to Washington, but not familiar coaching for this team, that's Doug Peterson and his Jacksonville Jaguars. I think I like their value here at +2.5. Listen, if you have a little faith like Mark does, and like I do, and Mark even has a little more than me in the Jaguars this season, I think this is a nice number to get them at now. Look, if you don't agree, if you don't think Trevor Lawrence is the guy, which a lot of people don't, you're probably going to look opposite. But I do. And the last time that Carson Wentz played the Jacksonville Jaguars, he got his ass smoked in week 18 last season. And that's why he's playing in Washington. It's a bad memory for him. It's going to be worse after week 1. I got the Jags +2.5.
Yep. As obviously, like you said, I definitely think that I like the Jaguars on that side of it. And then, did you want to go or you want me to go?
Go ahead. You hit it.
All right. So the my boy Baker Mayfield. This is the revenge game. It lined up perfectly. Panthers at home against the Cleveland Browns. -1.5 favorites. I like Baker to take care of business. Like I said, I think the whole Watson situation blew up in their face, and I think Baker is going to take it to him as he should. They obviously have CMC healthy right now. Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall. You go down the list. There's offensive weapons on this team. DJ Moore, obviously, probably the most crucial weapon. I just think the Browns, they're not awful, even though I do have them at 6-11. But I just think that it's just the Browns being the Browns. The way they went about this offseason, I think they really hurt themselves for this year. Next year, they might be okay. This year, good luck. I mean, you think about it, they lost, Beckham, Landry. I mean, really, they just have Njoku and Chubb, and Kareem Hunt once out. I don't really see much more that's to be desired from that team right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like it. I mean, I'm telling you the truth. I would have taken that pick too. I probably still will bet it this weekend. But for all intents and purposes, to do something a little different here, I will take a different game. I think the Baker revenge tour is real. But I'm going to look down to, listen, this team just never plays well down in this area. I'm going to go to the New England Patriots and the Miami Dolphins. I just feel like every time they go down to Miami, it feels like they lose. Now, I mean, it's not really fact, but I'm looking here. They lost last year. They lost the year before. They did win 143-0, but 4 of the last 5 they've lost. And if we even go back a little further, they've lost 7 of the last 9 down there. It's not great. And I think Tua's got something in his bag. I like the new coach down in Miami. He's a little quirky. He has a little quips too. What's his name? Mike McDonald?
McCarthy? No, not McCarthy.
It's McDonald, I think.
Is it McDonald?
McCarthy's in that. Yeah, you look it up. But I dig them. I dig the Dolphins. I do think, I have them as a wild card this season. I don't like really what they did in the all season, and then why they lost it. McDaniel, not Donald. Yep. Listen, I'm not sure what I feel about the Patriots yet. I just feel like that roster is in pieces, and losing Josh McDaniel could be a big kind of strike against them, and that'll probably come into effect week 1, and we'll figure it out as time goes. But losing 7-9 down in that heat, in that atmosphere, Belichick obviously hasn't adapted to it. Spreads jumped up over the key number 3, but I still like the Dolphins at -3.5. So that gives me Steelers. Jags is 200 dogs. Steelers is a favorite. That gives you Steelers, dog, Titans, Panthers is 2 favorites. I like it. This could be a 6-0 week.
I'm feeling it. Getting the season off on the right foot.
I love it. Hey, man. Well, that pretty much wraps it up for tonight. Listen, I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Look, I know we talked about earlier how much we love the show, but we love football. That's what gives us our pride, our passion, and the reason we love talking to you guys. Um, I can't wait for this team and to see how them ball out on Sunday. I know we'll text, I know we'll have our tweets, and I know we'll sit there and be a little frustrated with things here and there. But I will beg a little patience this year because in the end, the schedule's ripe, the team is good, and I really have high expectations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, with that said, Bud, we'll be back next week to break down the Eagles lines, start looking at how we did our 3-packs, hopefully above 500, and track on to the next week when we are headed to our home opener against the Minnesota Vikings. Until then, I'm Dave Gluckner. That's Marc Tomasini. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us at Heat Ratio Sports Network. And until we talk more, fly, Eagles, fly. Go Birds!